There was once not once, once there was once a quote I heard, and from a person I consider to be a wise man. He's still alive. From I'm pretty sure it was this person that mentioned it. His name is Kapil Gupta, and he said that sometimes the answer is just right in front of your eyes. And I didn't really understand it at first, but I've recently, the more as time goes on, the more I realize, yeah, this guy was right. It does be like that at times. But why do I say this? Because it relates to the title of the video. Because we're going to be discussing the age-old question of what is the meaning of life. It kind of makes me crease up a little bit just saying that because it's such a I don't want to say it's not basic. Okay, it's not basic, but it's just asked over and over again, and just everyone has a different answer as expected because everyone has their own truth, which is how it should be, in my opinion. But I don't know, just something about it just makes my brain like say ew. I don't know. Maybe you guys can relate. But anyway, yeah, we're discussing, what is the meaning of life. Well, as I mentioned in my previous video, which I made not too long ago, I said that for me, I believe that it's all about suffering. But let me wait. Just stop. Let's just stop right there because people might be ready to just jump on me and just say, "Oh, this down the third." But I'm not saying this as like I'm not some clueless person who just who's like super rich and just saying anything that just comes out of my mouth. This is through my own experiences, what I've seen through my own two eyes over the past year, over the couple of years, and I've noticed that at the end of the day, we are all essentially suffering in some form. So let's start with just defining what suffering is according to the when I do a Google search. It says it is a state of undergoing pain, distress, or hardship. And I actually quite agree with that because if you really think about it, just like stop for a second, just think about it. Throughout your life, for most people at least, there was always either a form of pain that you have to go through to get to somewhere, distress that you have to go to get somewhere, or hardship you want to get to somewhere, whether it be in going in school or in relationships or achieving a goal. It's not always what's the word? What's that phrase people like to use? It's not all sunshine, roses, flowers and sunshine, something like that. But like there's always obstacles when you're trying to do something, and if you're just trying to live life, you're not exactly going to just have a smooth line just all the way until the day you die. It just doesn't happen like that. That's just not how it works, unless some you're some outlier who just somehow just does everything right first time around. You don't have to go through any sort of some form of hardship. Then good for you. Congratulations, you're like the exception to the rule. But to everyone else, it's just not realistic. So that's why that's how I would define suffering. But another way to think about it is through the other phrase people like to use, like, oh, life is a journey. Let's talk about that because sure, life is a journey. You're going from you start somewhere and you're just making your way through to the end. But I think what people tend to forget is about the destination. Where are we actually going, which is never really defined or talked about. Are we just forever going to be on a journey until the day we die, or are we trying to get to somewhere at the end of the day, whether it be spiritual enlightenment or attaining great wealth to be passed on for generations. It just depends on what your end goal is at the end of the day. But whatever it may be, it's going to be a tough journey. you know it's going to be, as I said before, ups and downs. But I think what makes this beautiful, not beautiful, or just like, I guess it's a form of, I don't think it's a form of beauty. I'm using the wrong word, but that's the only word I can think of right now. Is because like you won't be alone. Because let's just imagine this: you're walking through like a desert, right? Just you're walking through the desert for the rest of your life, just on your own. It could be on your own, but as you walk through this desert, it's just really hard. It's hard. You don't know if you're actually going in the right direction. You start to come across people, and you then start to form bonds with these people, and that makes this journey through the long desert just that much easier. You can see this as your family or your friends or your partner or your kids or whatever it may be that's important to you in your life or significant to you in your life. Just having those people around you makes the suffering that much easier, but maybe it makes it too easy to a point where you forget what this is all about, which is in the end we're all basically suffering. So that's one way to look at this sort of analogy. But the reason I even came to this sort of like, I doubt it's not anything profound, right? Like I'm just, it's nothing insane. Like, oh wow, you just reinvented, you just blew everyone's mind. It's some people, a lot of people eventually come to this conclusion, but I just don't know when they do. But like, it's nothing like insane. But what did it for me, I think, was just because I something I believe is important is to be introspective and to really reflect on who who you've become today based on your past experiences, right? And just looking back on it, it just made me think, damn, I went through a lot of suffering, at least I'm not gonna say in my day because I'm still a kid basically, but in my time, right? And made me think, huh, this hardships that I went through has really defined me, and it's changed the way I approach life. Like for example, if something really shit happens, which is basically every single day, I don't think, damn, why did this have to happen to me? Because that's what I used to think, even just up to recently. Like, damn, what happened to me? Why is it always me of all people? Oh God, why can't I just get a break? And I just think to myself, that's life. And then when I think back to what's the meaning of life, it's suffering. And then way more willing to just accept that, that's just the way it is. It's just suffering, and it's bound to happen. Shit, what can you do? You just, it is what it is. And that I think, yeah, looking back on my past experiences really sealed it in for me. But there's also been other influences as well, such as manga, because I'm a I'm not I won't call myself a weep, but some people that I know might. But certain mangas like Berserk and Vagabond, by the way, amazing. But they talk a lot about su- they talk about suffering quite a lot, and especially in Berserk, because the main character Guts, his whole story is just suffering, basically, you know. But that's just life, you know. That's just his life, just suffering and wanting to get revenge. I won't say any more than that because I would just recommend you go read it, or at least try to watch the '90s anime, because that was a real roller coaster. I will say that much when I watched this as like a 16-year-old. But moving on, sorry, I'm just looking down this paper because as I said, this was quite unexpected. So I'm just trying to look at stuff to talk about, some talking points. I don't get too confused because I'm still not used to articulating my thoughts that well. But moving on, are there types of suffering based on the way I see it? Yeah, as I mentioned before, I think there's good suffering, which allows for you to just grow. Maybe like, I'm trying to think. Maybe you're hitting the gym. You should still be getting to the gym. You're not making as much progress as you would like to, and you're just running into plateau after plateau. You don't feel like you know what you're doing. You don't know if there'll ever be like an end goal in sight. I would see this as actually a form of good suffering, because like it's forcing you to have to take initiative to grow and become better, which I think humans just have to do in general. It's kind of okay, this is gonna be a bit of a fetch, but I guess in a way it relates to just how humans adapt, through like in strength and conditioning, like how humans are, if you want someone to produce more force, you have to, make sure they're training specifically to be able to produce more force, and they have to be progressively overloading every time and as well as recovering. But like, they're able to do it, they just have to keep trying to adapt. I guess that's the analogy I'm trying to use here. You're going to obviously run into obstacles and issues, but the whole point is that you acknowledge that you're not doing amazing and you just do your best to keep overcoming, because that's the whole point of this whole thing. You have to keep overcoming hardship and um, challenges to actually adapt, because that's I think that's what we're meant to do. We're just meant to keep adapting and adapting and adapting until we just never stop. You just never stop adapting to new situations. That's just the whole point. I don't know what it is kind of might confuse you based on what I said earlier, but when it comes to just keep adapting and just keep evolving, I don't actually see an end point for it. I guess it's just infinite in a way, which is very confusing considering what I just said earlier in the video about like, oh, people don't see the end goal when it comes to life being a journey. But that's just me. I'm still confused by the whole thing really, but that's just the way I see it at the moment. I hope to make a more well thought out video in the future, but that's just it for now anyway. But based off everything I said so far, some people might be quick to, as I said before, some people might be quick to jump on my head and be like, yeah, what this guy doesn't know nothing. I'm just a young kid, But at the end of the day, no, let me start again. I think people be quick to jump on me because just saying life suffering, like, oh, you don't know what I've been through. I've been through this and that. But yeah, isn't that kind of what defines you in the first place? You have to go through a form of suffering, and you're making it through at the end. You're making ends meet. That's the whole point, right? Because I'm not just, like I said before, I'm not just some naive. I'm not, because that stereotype of just like those the person that comes to mind is just Kim Kardashian recently, when like just like, oh, you have to hustle, you have to get up every day and hustle. I mean, don't get me wrong, she's correct. You do, but like, she's just the wrong person to be given that message, because she most likely hasn't really done that before. Having to get up at a certain time, not being able to feed the family, having to work like 15 to 12-hour shifts to try and make ends meet. Yeah, probably has no idea. And to be honest, I probably don't do too, because I've never actually had to work 12-hour shifts before. But I do work currently as part of just an internship at the moment. But like, that's not the point. But what I'm trying to say is, to get to the point where I am now wasn't just some walk in the park. It was hell on earth. But yeah, that was kind of the whole point of this very unorganized discussion of what is the meaning of life. It's about suffering. There's good suffering. I never even talked about bad suffering. I mean, bad suffering is just like, it's just bad. It's just gonna mess with you mentally, I guess you could say, or physically. Whether it be just trauma or anything of that sort. That's just bad suffering. That everyone has to go through some of bad suffering. I'm not saying they have to, but everyone inevitably does, and that can't be helped. Because that's just life. But I would say, based off how would I? Because, but yeah, so that's my thought on bad suffering, because it's not something that you should be looking forward to go through, but it's just something that will, I don't want to wish it upon anyone, but it's just something that does happen, and it's just something you kind of have to just mentally prepare yourself for. I mean, there's no amount of mental preparation you can really do, when it comes to the form of bad suffering I described earlier. Because who the hell wants to have to go through some sort of trauma as a form of bad suffering to just grow? Nobody does. That's just stupid. If you do, you'll be a bit weird for that, but you know what I mean. But like, even just having that, I guess, awareness that yeah, it's not always going to be super amazing. Shit can hit the fan any day. It just allows you to have a different outlook to life. I would think anyway. Maybe I could be wrong, because it's, I mean, it certainly worked for me so far. Growing up, how just knowing that you can always just go to crap or go to shit basically any second has allowed me to just try to remember my end destination and reduce the amount of mental gymnastics I put myself through when it comes to handling the situations. I guess in a way it's just a form of stoicism in a way, but that's just the way I see it anyway. But yeah, I appreciate you listening to my terrible attempt at trying to articulate my thoughts for like 16 minutes straight. It's been, I mean, it's 13 minutes right now on the camera, on my phone at least. But I did a earlier part, but I stopped halfway because I was just like, damn, this is actually sounding terrible. I just wanted to be as authentic as I could be. This is the way I did it. But yeah, thanks for listening, and till next time.